29-year-old Brandon Jacobs is behind bars and is accused of fatally stabbing an Uber driver and uploading the attack on social media. The incident occurred just before 3 p.m. on Thursday the 8th of December, when deputies responded to reports of a stabbing at the parking lot of Travelodge Hotel, located at 2200 West Bank Expressway in Harvey, Louisiana. When officers arrived at the scene, they found the victim, 54-year-old Yolanda Dillon, suffering from multiple stab wounds inside a vehicle. She was transported to a local hospital, where she succumbed to her injuries. Authorities said that Yolanda drove Brandon from a location in New Orleans to the hotel. Brandon then repeatedly stabbed Yolanda as he was exiting the car. He then uploaded a video of Yolanda dying on Facebook. Within hours of the attack, Brandon was taken into custody after he emerged from his room at the hotel to smoke a cigarette. During an interview, he reportedly confessed to detectives to stabbing Yolanda. He allegedly said that he selected the victim at random because he wanted to kill someone. Brandon is held at the Jefferson Parish Jail without bail. Yolanda worked for the New Orleans Police Department as a budget analyst for the past 10 years and drove for Uber in her spare time to help cover the cost of bills. Superintendent Sean Ferguson said, "Our team is taking it pretty hard. She was an extremely lovely person," he said. 31-year-old Tory Moore is behind bars and is accused of fatally shooting a store clerk early this week, and while conducting a search of his apartment, police discovered a dead woman inside. At around 2 p.m. on Thursday the 8th of December, authorities received a 911 call about a shooting at a Dash-In convenience store located at 11150 New Hampshire Avenue in Silver Spring, Maryland. When officers arrived, they found 61-year-old Ayulu Wandamu dead from multiple gunshot wounds to his chest. Authorities said that Tory got a bottle of iced tea out of a cooler and took it up to the counter where a verbal altercation began. At some point, Tory allegedly began throwing items from the front counter at Ayulu. Next, authorities said that the employee picked up a metal pole from behind the counter and tried to strike Tory from across the other side. Tory then allegedly took a step back, removed a silver handgun from his front vest pocket, and shot the convenience store clerk from point-blank range. Ayulu fell, at which point Tory reached over the counter and fired more shots into him. Tory then grabbed his iced tea and exited the store. Detectives were able to positively identify Tory from several witnesses, and store employees said that Tory was a problem customer at that location. Surveillance footage was used to help track down the suspect at his apartment directly across the road from the shop. Later that night, officers arrested Tory and executed a search warrant of his residence, where police also discovered an unidentified deceased pregnant woman in an advanced stage of decomposition on the floor. Authorities said that Tory told detectives that he was in a relationship with a woman and there had been some type of fight between them about a month prior that led to the victim becoming deceased. Detectives believed Tory had been living in the apartment with the body, and they found no reports of anyone missing or any problems in the apartment, nor did they find any complaints about any odour coming from the premises. Neighbour Tony Pineda, however, described an unbearable stench that hits when he gets off the elevator. "It just smells like trash," he said. "I don't know. It's just a bad smell." He's lived at the apartment complex for 2 years, but had no idea there was a dead woman's decomposing body down the hall. "I mean, knowing it's right here, it's kinda crazy," he said. Tory is held at the Montgomery County Jail without bail and is charged with murder and possession of a firearm while committing a felony in relation to the death of the gas station clerk. Detectives are awaiting medical examiner to positively identify the female victim and cause of death to determine appropriate additional charges. Tory's first court appearance is scheduled for Monday the 12th of December. 42-year-old Ewan Jewett is behind bars and is accused of killing his ex-girlfriend with an axe in front of her 2 children. On the night of the 6th of December, 40-year-old Julie Minogue was found dead at her home on Salem Walk in Milford, Connecticut. The medical examiner said she died from chop wounds and blunt impact injuries to her head, torso, and extremities, and her death was ruled a homicide. At 9 p.m. that night, authorities said that Julie's 17-year-old son called 911 after being woken up by a man screaming. He then heard his mother scream. He then went downstairs and thought he heard Ewan yelling, "You didn't believe me." His son said that Ewan was holding an axe and the mother was on the floor covered in blood. The teen said he then rushed upstairs and locked the door. He opened his window and punched a hole in the screen. He called 911 to report his mother was being assaulted with an axe and put a chair behind the locked door. Officers responded to the scene within minutes and yelled for the teen to come out, but he jumped out of the window instead. Fearing that the screams were from Ewan pretending to be police officers, police eventually picked up the teen, but there was no sign of Ewan. Deputies found Julie in a large pool of blood on the kitchen floor, with multiple critical lacerations to her face and skull, and a large axe was found on the stove nearby. The authorities said that Julie's 3-year-old son was on the living room couch in shock, but was unharmed. Ring camera footage captured by a neighbour allegedly shows Ewan walking with an axe in his hand that night. Following the slaying, Ewan's mother called police to report a phone call she received from her son, saying my son just called and said he killed his girlfriend. She continued to say her son was looking to kill himself. Police made contact with Ewan over the phone, but he did not want to talk and hung up. Officers started canvassing the area and went to dive bar at 24 Ocean Avenue in West Haven, about a mile away from the crime scene, to ask people to notify police if they spot Ewan. 2 men later flagged down police after seeing a person matching Ewan's description wandering around the parking lot for a couple of minutes. The suspect later went into a food truck in the parking lot. The witness told police he was in there, and Ewan was taken into custody without incident. Julie had protective orders against Ewan for previous domestic violence incidents. One was entered in November of 2019, and the other issued in January of 2021. Julie's teen told police that in 2019, Ewan was drunk and got into a fight with his mother, and Ewan threw a playpen at her head and she began bleeding. She then filed a restraining order while he was in rehab. On the 1st of December this year, Julie was granted a full no-contact restraining order against Ewan after complaining he sent 220 harassing text messages to her. The restraining order protected her and her children. "I don't feel I should be subjected to this abuse any longer," she wrote. "I'm scared for the safety of my children and I. Ewan has got himself into a lot of trouble with drugs and alcohol, and I'm scared he's going to kill me." The 2 children at home at the time of the murder are under the care of family members. Ewan is being held on a $5 million bond. He's charged with murder, reckless endangerment, risk of an injury to a child, violation of a restraining order, and violation of a protective order. During a court session on the 7th of December, attorneys on both sides cited mental health concerns with Ewan. He's been placed on suicide watch. His next court hearing is scheduled for the 14th of December. A 31-year-old woman was fatally shot last week in Wicker Park, Chicago, Illinois. At around 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday, the 7th of December, the authorities responded to a report of a person being shot in the 1500 block of West Hubbard Street. When first responders arrived, they found a woman with a gunshot wound to the head, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. The Cook County Medical Examiner's Office identified the victim as Brittany Wooten of Oak Park. No announcements have been made of any motive, suspects or arrests in the case. The Chicago Police Department are appealing to anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers